he sent away the men he was threatened by, the ones that would probably start questioning and wondering what's going on. He sent away thousands. And so there was so many women and children that didn't grow up with fathers. And we were all placed under these different caretakers, we called them. He targeted me a lot, more than any of the others. So I was supposed to be the third, but I held out for a year and a half. The more women and the more girls he took on, the more pressure was on me. And he would use his 9-year-olds to condemn me and call me and put pressure on me, knelt around me and put their hands on my head and stuff and like chanted some stuff up to God. And therefore I was married. Every day he would like select different girls that were going to be with him. That was a lot of times he would just disappear for days. And Sam was always telling me, do not tell your family about this. He would threaten with a lot of other things about the different things that would happen to them and me if I did. My mom didn't have any backup. I still remember the last conversation I had with her. She was crying and stuff, and she asked me, are you coming back? Right before they actually pulled us over, then he tried ditching the cops. We all were lying to the FBI. Every one of us, even the younger ones, we all were very trained in it. After coming to a realization that my entire life I had been lied to, I was born and raised in these lies. And here I am in prison facing these massive charges that I didn't even understand. Oh my God, I didn't realize I was that far in.
Mine is the only voice.
Wow.
What have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey guys, my name is Shalise Ansola, and this is Cults to Consciousness, where we discuss leaving high-demand religions or organizations and finding healing and independence through awareness and true individual sovereignty. If you're only listening on the podcast platforms and you'd prefer to see our faces, you can go to YouTube at Cults to Consciousness. It's the best way to support our show, and it is the best way to support our guests because they do read the comments. These are real people sharing their real-life stories, and we have such an incredible audience here. We really appreciate you and how you rally around our guests who are coming on. Today's guest, you have all been asking for her. You have probably seen the Netflix documentary called Trust Me, the False Prophet. It just came out. It is about a fundamentalist sect of Mormonism called the FLDS, or the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, initially run by, well, currently technically run by Warren Jeffs, who is in prison for crimes against children. And the documentary follows a little bit of a breakoff, Sam Bateman, who essentially wanted to claim that he was the prophet himself and gathering wives, and he is also now in prison. So today we have on one of his wives, the only one, ex-wives, only one who has publicly decided to come forward and speak about this. She was in the documentary. Thank you so much for being here today, Nomz.
Hi.
I'm sure all of this is a little crazy and a little new, and I know you've been out for a few years, but I'm sure it's all a little raw, especially now that it's in the public eye and you're getting thousands of messages I've seen from your Instagram. And I think when I first saw your video, you had 10,000 followers, and now it's over 30,000. People want to hear from you and want to talk to you. Has it just been completely overwhelming?
It has been quite overwhelming. I've only been out 18 months, actually.
Oh, okay.
So it's been overwhelming, but in a relieving way. I didn't expect the support that I'm getting. I was bracing for more hate, but I was so determined to let this story be known. I was so angry and felt like the awareness needed to be brought to the whole world.
Yeah. And how do you feel like the documentary captured the lived experience that you have?
I feel like they did the best they could. They had 300 hours of footage, and for them to cram it all into 4 hours and tell the story so accurately, I was blown away. And I appreciated how they didn't go into too much of the details of the abuse, because that was also something we had. I mean, it felt, me seeing it for the first time, it was so overwhelming just seeing the little clips. I did appreciate that they didn't go deeper.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure it just feels so vulnerable to have the world see that part of you. And I've seen in comments in your videos and other interviews where everyone said the minute you sat down in quote Gentile clothes and was ready to talk to the camera, everyone was cheering and they're like, yes, I'm so glad that she's out and she's thriving. And what was that experience like for you, watching yourself in the documentary, how you were acting and how you were very much in it to coming out? I think, were you wearing pink? It was like a bright color, right? Maybe it was red.
It was bright pink.
Yeah, bright pink. Seeing yourself that way.
Well, actually watching the first 3 episodes, I was beside myself. Like, oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't realize I was that far in because I was the only one that recognized and knew what was going on inside. I was the only one to know that it was masking. We were all on script, and he targeted me a lot more than any of the others. I will tell you like some little clips in the series that of what was going on around the time, but just seeing myself coming out of it, it was validating as well as overwhelming, and I spiraled for the first few weeks because I did get to see it before it came out. I spiraled and was really scared.
Yeah. What did that look like for you? Did you just isolate yourself? Were you trying to reach out to Christine and talk it through, or how did you handle it?
I spent a lot of time with Christine and Toga and talking to them, talking it through, and their encouragement. It would always go back to my original thoughts. Why did I do it in the first place? And I would be like, I'm committed to stopping him and anyone like him. Look what he did to me. I don't want that happening to anyone. It's not worth it. And I would just go back to, I'm willing to put my pain and comfort aside to stop so that this won't happen to someone else.
Yeah. And that's amazing. It truly is courageous. And so many people I have on here, they all kind of say the same thing of like, well, I don't feel brave. I just feel like it's what needed to be done. And I'm getting that sense from you too, which is also a total, complete self-sacrifice where you're doing this out of almost, you feel like, obligation to speak out and to help other people, which is incredible. And I want everyone to understand just how difficult that actually is.
I feel like it also has to do with survivor's guilt. I don't understand how I woke up from it and I'm able to break away and my heart just goes out for everybody that's in.
Yeah, that's a difficult place to be.
Yeah.
And you really can't understand unless you're in that position, the level of exposure that you've allowed people to see of you. And I'm sure it's tricky to navigate. And a lot of people like you, even us, right? Like I've been in situations too with other cult leaders, not just mainstream Mormonism, where I'm like, what was I thinking? But it's so easy to fall prey to this type of thing, especially when you're born and raised in a high control group. So that's why I wanted to have you on to go back to the beginning. I want to hear more about your story, how you were raised, and the mental state that you were in when Sam swooped in and did what he did on the show that we've all seen. So can you give us an idea about your childhood, maybe talk about your family dynamic a little bit, how many moms you had, if your dad did practice polygamy, and what that was like for you growing up?
My dad did practice polygamy. He had 2 wives, and up until I think I was 12, 13, when he was sent away, Warren Jeff sent him away for some really ridiculous accusations that even I still don't believe them. But I think if I remember right, then they had something to do with unconfessed childhood sins as well as murder of unborn children, because my mom had miscarriages.
He was blaming your dad for that, for the miscarriages?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So In my eyes now, looking back, I feel like he sent away the men he was threatened by.
Yeah.
The ones that would probably start questioning and wondering what's going on. And he sent away thousands. And so there was so many women and children that didn't grow up with fathers. And we were all placed under these different caretakers, we called them. And they were supposed to be the father figure. I went through 3 of them. And Ladell was the 3rd one. And the one before him was more abusive. And he would whip me.
Wow.
When you don't whip a girl that's 12 and 13, even 14, that's, I don't know. Yeah, he was more abusive. So when we were placed under Ladell's care, then it was something better than what we had had. And so we were all just grateful. But at least the siblings that were placed under his care, because we were the family after Dad went, then we were separated and split apart, and the moms went to different people, and the children even went there. We were scattered into 5 different places.
Wow. How many siblings did you have from your mom?
From my mom, I had 11 siblings.
Wow. And where did you fall?
Right in the middle. I have 5 older and 5 younger.
Okay. So initially when your dad was sent away, all of 11 of you were split. And was your mom ever with you again in the same home?
She was in the same home, but she was so scattered between the different places with all her kids. So she was gone a lot, and I didn't really have a relationship with her since my dad went. I remember watching her go through these different breakdowns when she had to sign off her kids to different places over and over. And then when some of my brothers were sent away and we were told we would never see them again, they were 11. She went through another really bad breakdown. And I remember nights laying on my bunk bed, and she would come in and cry to my oldest sister at the time, who was 19, I think she was. And I remember just pretending to be asleep and listening to them talk and cry. But there was nothing I could do.
That must have been so hard for you, missing your family, missing your mom. Was anyone ever sent to Texas, any of your siblings?
No, I did have some that went further up into Utah. It's been years since I've seen even them. And it was 15 years before I started being able to see some of my brothers.
Oh my gosh. How was that for you, just being traded around, passed around, no real stability or parental figure that you could go to consistently? Or did you feel like you could go to the caretakers?
At one point then we didn't really have a choice but to go to the caretaker, because there was no stability. I got a lot into writing. I would make up stories a lot. At the time, I had notebooks and notebooks of handwritten novels, but I didn't know they were novels at the time. They were just made up stories. And I would get into trouble a lot for it with the other moms in the home. And, but they were totally innocent. I drew a lot as well. And I would draw these picture stories. And I think that helped me a lot through those years. I don't know how to answer, what was it like? It was normal.
Yeah.
That was just what happened. You adapted, and you were always kept so busy that you didn't really have time to think about it.
Yeah.
And the times that I did, then I would be writing made up stories so that I could get myself out of the situation in some way.
And that's also a really common way to dissociate or to imagine a world different than your own. A lot of our guests talk about getting lost in books and writing stories too.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking that they even try to take that away from you when you weren't allowed to have toys or even really play.
Yeah.
How old were you when Warren was put into prison?
I was 7.
Do you remember that time?
I remember the day he was put in prison because I had never met him. And I remember when he was in hiding, the talk that went around when he became FBI Most Wanted. I remember the thoughts as a 7-year-old thinking the expectations were so high and hoping to die before I turned 8 because then I'd be accountable for all my sins.
I remember having that same feeling. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And I was nowhere near under the oppression that you were. Just as a regular Mormon girl, I remember being jealous of kids who had passed away before they were 8, thinking, wow, they're so lucky they get to go to the celestial kingdom.
They just automatically get to go to the celestial kingdom. So yeah, I do remember having a lot of thoughts like that at 7. No 7-year-old should think like that. Now I babysit my little nieces and nephews and different cousins that are way younger, and I cry that they get to have this normal childhood life that I was deprived of.
Yeah.
It is emotional to see children get to be children. I remember the day they actually caught him, and it kind of shut down a lot of things in the FLDS. There was no baptisms for a few years, so I technically wasn't baptized until I was 10. And during that time, my thoughts were very interesting. I remember thinking things like, the whole world's going to come to an end, so why try? Why try living? Why try improving? Why try anything? Because we're being raised on these trainings that the destructions are going to happen. And I remember thoughts of being glad I wasn't baptized because I could do all the bad stuff that a little kid could do, and then it will be washed away.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that so crazy? I remember being jealous of converts because I was like, they get to be like 30 and have a whole life and they get baptized and then everything's just washed away and I have to be good starting at 8. This isn't fair.
Right. but it was August 28th, and I remember my mom and older sister coming in and talking about it, and it was really serious. And I remember my dad talking about it, and I remember mom crying and my older siblings crying a lot, but I didn't really have the mindset to understand. It was just like, oh, yep, he went to jail. I mean, I never met him. I never knew him, but he was like this god, and so yeah, we better start praying that he can get out. As a kid, then I didn't really comprehend a lot. This was kind of funny, but I do remember not very long after he was in prison, when I was around 8, then we were going to the dentist in a few days, and my dad got up in family class and was talking about how any day the prophet could be delivered and those walls could crumble down. And it's up to us. It is up to us for his deliverance to be made whole. And I remember sitting there in class in my mind praying like, God, please wait till after Wednesday. Because I had this dentist appointment on Wednesday and I got to go to town and I got to see Gentiles. And it was like so fascinating. So I was like, please wait till after Wednesday before he's delivered.
That's such a wholesome thought. Also, that a child was looking forward to going to the dentist.
It's so weird.
What was your perspective of the outside world when you did get to get a peek into it?
It was always really fascinating at the time. I didn't know much, but I knew some just from different appointments out of town. People have always been interesting to me, I guess. So I knew I could never be friends with the other kids at the dentist in the waiting room, but I would try at the time.
Oh,
So
that's so sweet. Were you ever jealous of the outside world, or did you always have that sense of pride? I remember having the sense of pride of like, well, I'm Mormon and I just know better, and poor them that they don't have the fullness of the gospel. But also, I wish I could wear shorts. So do you remember having those thoughts of, well, I prefer to wear these dresses and I'm doing God's will, or did you kind of secretly want to be on the other side?
It went back and forth. There was days where I felt so much more elite and better and so much holier than thou. And then there were the days that I was in jealousy, really jealous, because they could have such a good life and they didn't know better. And at any time, then they could just be baptized and have just what I have been working for my entire life.
Uh-huh.
It was, so I don't know, the balance was really unfair. So
Yeah.
I do remember going back and forth with that a lot, my entire life.
Was there anything specific that you remember thinking, if I was on the outside, maybe I could wear jeans or something, whether it's big or small? Was there something that you remember wanting?
Not so much jeans, but I did love the mini skirts.
Nice.
I do remember having conversations with my other friends and relatives in the cult and saying things like, if we were Gentiles, what would we be? And we would talk about, oh, I would be this or I would be this. And I remember saying I would definitely be in the entertainment industry. I'd be a singer or an actor. I would be somewhere in that industry.
Okay, so even as a young kid, you wanted that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I remember also playing Gentiles.
That's
we would
so
roll
funny.
up our sleeves and tuck in our dresses and our pants and play apostate in Gentiles.
Play apostate. I just love that visual.
Yeah, we get in a lot of trouble for it, but we would try.
What would that actually look like? How do you play apostate?
Roll up our sleeves, clear up, tuck in our dresses. And by rolling up sleeves, that means rolling up the long johns or the underwear we had too.
Uh-huh.
And rolling up our leggings and tucking in our dress. And so we had this big, huge wad here, but we would walk around playing. But if any of like the older siblings or like the moms saw us, then we knew we were in deep trouble.
Yeah.
So it was always just when we were alone, just with the other kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. What were your thoughts on polygamy as a child? Because that's what you were raised with. So I'm assuming that you were expecting to have to do it yourself, but is that something you wanted?
It was normal. It was something that was inevitable in my mind. So I didn't ever really think that I had a choice and I better just learn to love it or be damned to hell.
Yeah.
It wasn't really an option. So I do remember going to my mom one time, I think I was 14 or 13, and talking to her about how middle I am. I said, I hate it because I'm such a middle person. Everything in my life is middle. I was born in the middle of the year, in the middle of the day, and I'm in the middle of the family, and I get treated so middle and so average. And I was like, and I already know that when I get older, then I'm going to marry this middle, and I'm going to be placed into this marriage with this middle-aged man, and he's going to have like a bazillion wives. I'm going to be a bazillionth wife in the middle.
Yeah.
So I remember talking about that, and I remember writing poems about it, just always in the middle. And I could never get out of that average grind, and I don't know.
What did she say?
She kind of laughed it off and was just like, if this is what God wants, and I mean, what can we do about it? She was in the same predicament of just being compliant and obedient, and whatever happens in your future, if that's what God's wanting, and then yeah, sucks to be you, basically.
Oh my gosh. Was your dad ever allowed to come back, or did she remarry or stay single?
I believe at the moment she's still single under a different caretaker, but my dad was never allowed back. He's still out repenting, and I reconnected with him last year, and it's kind of hard for me because he's lived so long as like a bachelor that he doesn't really know how to act around his kids. We have a really good friendship, but not as father-daughter relationship.
Okay. And he's still in the FLDS or trying to get back into it?
He's back and forth. I don't really know.
How old were you then when you were placed with Ladell?
13.
13. And this is around the time, well, it is the time that Warren has stopped marriages, stopped allowing even married couples to have sex or have babies. Are you starting to feel a little anxious at this point? Like, am I going to get to practice polygamy, or am I going to get married, or was that not on your mind at all?
It was kind of ingrained into us to think stuff like that. And by the time, because Warren was already marrying girls as young as 12, then by the time you hit 12 years of age and you started getting older than that, then you started feeling undeserving, like bad and wicked because you weren't married off. So I remember going through a few years of the guilt because nobody was getting married anyway, but it was our fault because we were so wicked that he's not out of prison now.
Mm-hmm.
I did go through years like that, and then once I hit around 16, 17, that was when the rebellious streak started. With anybody, I feel like that's around when you start gaining a little bit more independence, and independence in the cult was not independence at all, but it was the time where you started kind of pulling strings. Like for me, I started sneaking out. I would sneak out and go down to the college that was a little ways away, and that was free Wi-Fi, and we'd download very innocent movies like Shirley Temple movies and Andy Griffith, things like that. And those were very wicked to then. So there was like a little bit of like a streak where I started being rebellious around that time and not caring. And then it started getting stronger and stronger where like, you know what? Good. I don't want to get married. This is great. I'm so happy in my life right now. I started feeling like that. And that was when the Sam stuff started.
What was that conversation like with Ladell? How did he present it to you?
Trying to remember. It was night. And I had been working out the airport since I was 16 or 15 because I guess I got to where I was like so rebellious in the family or something, like the family that I was with at the time, that some of the moms really couldn't stand me. So one of my punishments was starting to work out the airport, and I was very isolated from the rest of the family and everyone, very secluded. And I actually loved it because I got more time alone, and I loved hiking, and I would go out there and just explore all the time. I just had to give that little brief story, like why I was out the airport. So I'd been working out there for a few years at this point, and I started noticing Sam coming out there in 2018 when I was 19 and talking to Lud for hours. But it was just kind of like, oh yeah, some of the men talking, like none of my business. I didn't care. So I'd just be doing my own thing until one night then Ladell called and he told me that I needed to come and meet Sam. So I went out and met him, and he told me it was around, I don't think he told me that night, but the whole conversation was really weird. It was kind of like I could feel there was something more. At the time, Sam only had 2 wives though, his 2 first ones. I don't know, I felt like there was something more to the conversation. A few days later, then he called me. He got my number from Lud, and he's like, Heavenly Father told me that you belong in my family and you've been resisting this, and if you're angry at me about this, then you can't blame me. Just go talk to God, get on your knees and get your own answers.
What was your response to that? How did you feel?
I felt the blood drain out of me.
Yeah.
because I felt like I was finally getting to where, I didn't care about life. I was, just a young teenager, and possibly like I started struggling and started asking questions about Warren and stuff, and then this happened. So I felt the blood drain out of me, and I was like, there goes my life. Any chance of anything.
Did you feel like you had a choice, or did you feel like you had to do what Ladell was telling you as your caretaker?
I didn't feel like I had a choice at all. And as much as I fought it, the more I fought it, the harder it got, the more pressure it was put on me. So I didn't feel like I had a choice at all. And I remember something really horrible happening that year with one of the other ladies. And she went to the hospital and everything. And the whole entire experience was blamed on me. And they were like, she could have lost her life because of your disobedience and what you're doing. This is all your fault.
What? And you weren't connected to the incident at all. They just mean in a spiritual sense?
Yeah, and it was a lot of pressure, and it wasn't toward the end. So I fought it for over a year, and then he started threatening my family, and that was when one morning, then Lud called on a call with Sam, and didn't really give me a choice, and I finally agreed to it. I was like, you know what? Whatever.
Yeah.
And on the way, Sam was living in Lincoln, Nebraska at the time, and Lud got me in the car, and we drove to Lincoln, and he didn't stop once. I mean, he stopped for fuel, but he didn't stop to sleep or anything. It was a 23-hour drive, or 23-hour drive. And the entire drive, I wrote my whole epilogue, I think that's what it's called, for my funeral, and planned out my whole side. I wrote to Sam, I texted him and told him if I'm not going to be meeting Joseph Smith and Jesus Christ tonight, then, because in my mind they were still like these elite, Joseph Smith was still like God, So I wrote this epilogue, and then I texted Sam and I said, if Jesus Christ and Joseph Smith are not there, I'm myself, and told him how I was going to do it.
Oh my gosh. What did he say to that?
He didn't really answer.
He didn't answer?
No. But before that, prior to that, it was interesting. So I was supposed to be the third, but I held out for a year and a half until the more women and the more girls he took on, the more pressure was on me. And he would use his 9-year-old wives to condemn me and call me and put pressure on me. That's a lot. It's a lot to hear a 9-year-old judging you and punishing you, and also like correcting you. Me, I've always been very susceptible and just listen to the children, because like I was a child once and I knew what they were going through and all this, and I don't know. It was a lot of pressure. And he did use, like, the more women and the more wives he got, the more he used them to recruit. I just had to put that in there. I held out to the number 13. He got 10 more in that time of me fighting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he made it to Lincoln, Nebraska, and he took me in there. My caretaker took me in there, and he basically just took my hands, put them in Sam's, and he's like, I give you this girl. Moroni Johnson was there, and then they knelt around me and put their hands on my head and stuff, and like chanted some stuff up to God. It was really creepy. And therefore I was married. I never said I do. This was obviously before all the trauma bonding and the breaking down.
Wow. What's going through your mind when it comes to the spiritual aspect of things? Because you're still following Warren, who is saying no marriages, no children. Did you question that with Ladell of, well, I thought we weren't supposed to be getting married, and why are you giving me to this man, Sam?
I did. We weren't really allowed to question, and so I would ask questions in a roundabout way. And I remember saying a little about it, but not not in a question form. It's just kind of hints. He would kind of twist it all up into, well, about Warren Jeff's translation and how he's basically dead and Sam is his successor. I don't remember putting a lot of thought into it after that.
Mm-hmm. Did you have an opportunity to connect with your mom during that 1.5-year period and tell her what was going on?
After I'd been fighting it for almost 11 months, then I finally did. One day, my mom, I didn't really have a relationship with her, which is so sad. I wish I did, because I still love her so much and miss her. I miss the mom I had as a child, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's like now, especially after everything that she's been through. But I did sit down and tell her, and I had been warned not to. Sam was always telling me, do not tell your family about this. He would threaten with a lot of other things, about the different things that would happen to them and me if I did. And so I finally did come up with the courage and sat down and told my mom. She didn't really know how to handle it because she was going with another faction in the FLDS at the time. She was very broken because she didn't know what to do about it, and it was already too deep. The pressure and the threats and everything. And I remember her asking me, so are you going to do it? And instead of encouraging me in another way, she didn't know how to handle it. They were putting too much pressure on me. My mom didn't have any backup. I still remember the last conversation I had with her, and it was the day that Lud was taking me to Lincoln. And she was crying and stuff, and she asked me, are you coming back? And I remember crying too, and I said, I have to do this because for you, it's not even for me, because she didn't know it really was like the threats that he would say about my mom and younger siblings. I remember just being stiff as a board and no emotion, just like, Mom, I'm doing it for you. And she's like, are you coming back? And I said, yeah, but I don't know when. And I don't know how.
Yeah. Oh, that's so much weight to put on you as a young teen. And it makes me sick to know that he was actually threatening your family.
Yeah.
And you truly did not have a choice but to comply.
He really tried getting my younger sister, my 13-year-old younger sister, when she was like 13 and 14. He really tried getting me to recruit her. But on my way to Lincoln, I had deleted all of my family's contacts and pictures of them. And he didn't really have access to her. So he would try getting me to somehow reach her, but it didn't happen. And I'm still so grateful that even seeing the videos and like even him breaking me down to what I was in the documentary, there's still a part of me that's so proud that I didn't involve my family. I was alone in that. None of them were my family, and my younger sisters were protected from that. I wish I could have done more with my other, like my cousins, but they would listen to their moms and their sisters more than me.
Yeah.
And by the time we moved down from Lincoln, we were all broken. We were all compliant, doing whatever Sam said.
I think compliant is the right word, because there comes a point where you have to decide, am I going to stay sane and potentially end my life, or am I going to give in for my own survival? And I think it's incredibly common for people who are in these positions to take on the fawn response. I'm sure you're familiar, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Yes.
It's a
Very
survival mechanism, yeah, where you know that appeasement, which they're also working on adding to that list, appeasement versus fawning, is almost easier in some ways because it's helping you avoid more trauma and more abuse by just appeasing the person who is harming you. What do you feel like was a common tactic that you saw Sam use with yourself or with the other wives to get them to be compliant?
I can only speak for what happened with me. I'm not sure with them because everything was so secret. We never really knew what was happening to the girl sitting right next to us. And he wouldn't allow us to, he called it chit chat. We couldn't talk about our lives before. We couldn't talk about what was happening and what he was doing, especially what he was doing. We could not talk about that amongst each other. So I can only speak for myself in regards of how I was broken down, but I don't know a lot about the others. I know some, but I feel like one day they'll want to tell their story.
Yeah.
But with me, I had no knowledge of sexual relationships, anything about that. That was supposed to be left for your husband to explain everything. And Sam assumed that I knew everything. So it was that first time he raped me. And I was so shocked and startled. My whole body was in shock for weeks. Later, when I told him that I didn't know anything, I didn't even know how a male looked before that, then he accused me of lying and said a bunch of other, things had happened in my life before that I didn't understand, but he basically just told me that I was lying and had me write these false confessions of all the relationships that I had when I was 16 and 17 that didn't happen. I was too naive. I was too innocent for that. But after that, I remember not caring. I went through months where I didn't care what happened. I didn't care about anything, especially not myself. And I remember telling him in these exact words, I'm just your rag on the end of a stick. Do with me what you will. And he did.
Wow. I'm so sorry that you went through that. And for him to also just be so self-centered and so out of touch. He's collecting these women and he's just doing whatever he wants with no regard to their own safety, emotional safety, physical safety, even spiritual safety. Because at that point, when did you start to believe in him as a divine person, as a prophet, or did that ever come?
I was in this situation for around 2 years, and it was in about, I think, 8 or 9 months. He would talk about something that was going to happen, and then he would literally make it happen, but for us, we wouldn't see this. And so he would just be like, oh, I'm this prophet about this. And the coercion and manipulation was insanely strong. And eventually then we all started feeling like, you know what, he's right. He said he was going to get these Bentleys for Warren Jeffs and Roland Jeffs, even though they're dead. Then he was going to get these, and nobody has like $1 million to throw around like that, because both of those cars were up at least 300,000. After he would do stuff like that, then he would say, I'm going to get these, like the Lord has impressed me that I should have these for these former prophets, and I'll take care of them until they are resurrected or whatever. But after within a month, he had them. So yeah, we started thinking, you know what, he's right. He's like this holy prophet. And everything he said he was going to do, whether it was kind or mean, he would do it. So we started believe in him. And he started building us into what he wanted. He broke us down and then started building us into what he wanted us to be. It's terrifying. It's honestly terrifying for me to think about it now, because he was creating a monster of me. And I had no idea what was going on. I was so numb to it.
You were in survival mode. And at some point, you have to either give into it, or, like we were saying before, if you're truly awake to what was going on, you probably couldn't have handled it. Your brain, your body couldn't have worked itself out to do anything about it. It just would have felt like a helpless situation.
It already wasn't. Through the entire situation, I couldn't have children because my body was under so much stress that it stopped. It stopped. My cycles quit.
Really?
I was one of the few adults that didn't have children.
Wow. I was going to ask if you were concerned about that.
And he tried.
He did try.
He tried, and he would get angry at me and tell me that I was resisting God because I wouldn't have this child with him. And God wanted this to happen. And at the time, then I would be like, I know, like, if God wants it, then why isn't it happening? My body wasn't able to at the time.
Yeah. Did you have any awareness of your cycle or any understanding of your cycle to know that that's what you needed in order to get pregnant?
Not so much. I sadly learned more about it in prison from other inmates that explained to me, because I would talk to them a little bit about. I didn't really go into details about my story with anybody, but there was this one lady that I got really close to, and I started talking to her more about it, and she was like, "Oh my God, your life was not normal." And then she would ask me, like, "So you having them now?" And I didn't start having them again until a few months before my release.
Wow.
That was crazy stress that I was under.
Yeah, I'm sure. How was your nutrition at this time? Do you feel like that could have contributed? Were you eating enough?
He always had us on these really bizarre fasts. And not to mention, every single day then he would have us drink this. He said it was like a keto drink, but I'm not so sure because I have no idea what was in it. And it was made with like this weird powder stuff, and it was gooey, and it was like this grayish green brown color. And every single day he would have us all drink a cup of it. Every one of us. And it was gross. It was gross, but we would drink it. And he would do the cold showers and breathing exercises and affirmations, and he would come up with the affirmations as well. It was insane, the control. So I could do with that as well.
Yeah. Were you able to get close to any of the other wives where you couldn't really talk to each other? Do you feel like you were just kind of coexisting, or did you get close with any of them?
I feel like during the situation, we mostly just coexisted. We couldn't get close to each other. We couldn't talk about anything. And it wasn't until prison, and they had Moretta in the pod next to me, and we started talking through the door more about our lives. And we would try giving hints that we were turning and we were switching sides, but we couldn't tell each other that we were doing that because we were scared. We were so scared that the other person would rat us out.
Yeah.
And so we would just drop these hints about, we would be like, "Oh, so have you seen this movie? Like, this is how I feel about it." You know, we would try so hard. And it wasn't until the day we were testifying, the week of the trial, that I saw Moretta there, testifying against him. And I was there. That was such a weight of relief. We've gotten way closer since.
Oh, that's so great. Was there anything that you would want people to know about what went on in that house as a sister wife, or anything that was not shown on the documentary that you'd like people to know?
A lot of things weren't shown on the documentary. We just coexisted. Didn't really. Of course, we had the daily talks about the meals and the children and what father wanted. And every day he would like select different girls that were going to be with him. That was a lot of times he would just disappear for days. And if we weren't compliant during those days when he got back, the repercussions were pretty severe. For me, I remember there was one time he sent me out to live in that same box trailer that was pulled over in Flagstaff. He had me living out there, and different girls at the same time, but they were like rotating depending on what bad thing they did. I was out there for 3 months once, living in that, and that was why there was that whole situation with how it looked inside.
Oh my gosh, 3 months.
It was crazy because of the mind prison I was in. I was so scared to leave the area of the little camp area. And he would come out there every day, and every weekend he would have other women bringing in food. So I was taken care of, but terrified to leave that.
And that was a punishment that he gave you.
Yeah, because I told him that I was tempted to think evil of him. Because it's actually kind of funny now. But there was these 2 Turkish girls that came and were helping Tolga with some of the filming. And after they left, then he turned to the rest of us girls and he's like, I had this impression that they belong in my family. They belong to me. Those 2 girls too. I don't know why I suddenly had this streak of audacity, but I was like, I'm really tempted to think evil of you because every girl you see, especially the pretty ones, then you say they belong in your family. That wasn't the right thing to say.
And he did not like that.
No. And I remember one of the other girls after, he really got after me. And then one of the other girls came to me later after I was like getting ready to leave and stuff, and she said, if you just learned to shut your mouth, then you wouldn't get in so much trouble. So it was pretty intense.
Yeah. So there was that little fire in you that wasn't completely extinguished that you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say sometimes I was 99% committed, but that 1% saved me.
Yeah. I do want to talk about that trailer incident that we saw from the body cam footage from your perspective, what you felt was going on, because I know you've been trained your entire life to avoid police, to think that the police are out to get you. And I mean, the raids in Texas had probably, they would have happened by that point, right? Where the kids were taken away.
Oh, yes.
So you knew the possibility of being separated. What's going through your mind when the police are banging on that door trying to get you guys to come out?
I remember mostly shock, numb, right before they actually pulled us over. Then he tried ditching the cops. And it was so scary. The girls that were in the trailer were on the phone and he was talking to them, and they were all like, some of them were getting really worried, and they were like, we can't hold the door, you're going too fast. And they were really scared. And all of us in the vehicle, we were like basically in the line of the shotgun. We couldn't say anything. So we were just silent through the whole chase down. And then just before he finally pulled over, I started crying. And then the girl next to me started getting all emotional, and he got really offended at us. And just before he got out of the vehicle, then he turned around and said something about how if anything happens, then this is on you.
What?
So I felt obligated, like, oh God, like it's going to be on me, and which it was. It was. I mean, the whole world doesn't know this. After his release, 4 days later, I was the one that was confronted with all the punishments, and he threatened to abandon me and leave me out there in the trailer again and things like that. And not to mention, the entire time the police was asking us our names and like drilling us down, he stood right behind them. They hadn't put him in the car or the vehicle, and he was just giving us that dead look like, you better cooperate. I mean, you better stand up for me or whatever. It was terrifying. But after they put him in the vehicle, and then they separated us all up into like these little groups, like 4 groups, and they put 2 girls over here, 2 girls here, and then the 2 adults at the time, me and Moretta, they put us somewhere else. We all started talking. And they started asking us all, where are you going? We had no idea, which is so strange. I was told Mesa. Moretta was told Santan. And some of the other girls were told, I just about gave names, but I try not to. So, with Moretta, then, she's coming out more, so I feel okay with using it. But anyway, so the other girls, then some of them said Tucson. He had told us all a different place.
And the police probably thought you were lying because you're all saying different things.
They were very aggressive.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand the situation at all. But I don't hold it against them now, because what were they supposed to do? There has been times where I get really sad when I see those videos going viral and the whole world not understanding the behind what was going on. I don't know. There has been times where I was really offended at the officer for even releasing that.
Yeah. That was one of the times that I got upset when watching the documentary, because it just was clear that they weren't trained in any sort of trauma care or understanding cult dynamics, where they were very aggressive with you. And knowing people who have talked to me about how they've been trained against the police and law enforcement in general and outsiders in general, you can't just try to bulldoze answers out of somebody who's trained to not talk to you. And so I wanted to ask you, now that you're out and you can look back and you understand the mindset you were in, what do you think would have been effective, or what could law enforcement have done differently to help you girls potentially open up and help them understand the situation?
I think kindness. If they would have been more kind. Also, another big thing that I've learned through even my own study and my own experiences is don't ever talk against the main perpetrator in the moment, because we were all trauma bonded. We had severe Stockholm syndrome with him. So if they were to ask questions around the situation rather than directly about it, we would have been way more open.
Mm-hmm.
Way more. That's just like from my own experiences. That's how I feel. That's the only thing you can do with somebody that's in a cult, is always show kindness, don't shun, and don't talk against their perpetrator, but try to bring parallels. Let them come to their own conclusion.
Because it was you, right, who yelled at him and said, you have to let him go. And then he yelled back at you, like, that's not how this works, or something like that.
Yeah, that was me.
That little fire in you that was still in there.
I love what Christine said about her. She's like, I was committed, I was compassionate, but in all the wrong places. But hopefully, like, it's shifted now.
Yes.
So severely.
Yes, of course.
Hopefully that brings something to the world in a helpful way.
Yeah. Well, it also just shows where you were. Your mindset at the time was, you can't take him away. I need him. You know, he had pushed you down to the point of feeling helpless, of being helpless.
He had, yeah.
And if you take away that person who is feeding you, who is hanging your salvation in the balance, it doesn't feel like liberation. It feels like death, even though he's also the source of your pain.
It very much did. I remember even at the time of the raid, I remember some of the girls saying to the FBI, I wasn't one of them that was saying this, but I do remember watching some of the girls saying, you might as well line us all up right now and shoot us all if you're going to take him. That is really what they were thinking. It's insane. That was what our mindsets were. He had come in and he had so much control over our minds at the time.
Do you remember how much time had passed between the trailer incident getting pulled over and the actual FBI raid when they took him again?
Yeah, it was almost exactly 2 weeks. So he was pulled over on August 28th, and then 2 weeks later on the 13th of September. The 13th of September, then the FBI raid happened.
So when that happened, what's going through your mind at this point? Now that it's the second time, you were blamed for the first one, but you can't possibly be blamed for this one. Or at least, I don't know, what were you thinking when that happened?
Actually, I thought I would be.
Really?
I did. And we all were lying to the FBI. Every one of us, even the younger ones, we all were very trained in it. During the weeks of his first arrest and the FBI coming in and taking him, he was very, very paranoid. And he would tell us, they're going to come in, they're going to try to take me, and this is what you should say to them. And I remember him specifically talking to me, and he said, they're going to target you. He said, lie like hell if you have to. And he raised his voice about it and everything. It was very intense. They were the most intense weeks of the entire situation. Those 2 weeks were.
Did he talk to you girls about why he thought he was going to be arrested and try and get ahead of the narrative?
Not so much. I remember him just telling us, scripting us in what to say. We were still very clueless of what was going to happen, but he was kind of scaring us, getting us all paranoid, but we were still so clueless.
Yeah.
But I believe he knew something was going to happen.
For me, I think it's wild that he thought he could get away with what Warren Jeffs did not get away with.
That is a really wild thing that I never really thought about. It's wild for both of them to think they could get away with that.
It just shows the delusion. I mean, we all saw the delusion. I even saw your Instagram post of his whiteboard. Things he wanted to do, like rule South America and marry the queen or whatever.
The level of delusion he had. But what's so weird is we believed him. We believed that stuff was going to happen because he said he was going to get these $1 million Bentleys, and he did. It didn't even register in our brains that we're living in a chicken coop and he's driving around these very expensive vehicles, which he could have bought a whole new house with these vehicles for us, but he didn't care.
Yeah.
But so we were all just like, oh yeah, this stuff is gonna happen. it's embarrassing and quite comical now, but at the time I don't think I had the awareness to even think twice, like, wait a minute, this is pretty bizarre.
Yeah. Can we talk about the leather jacket?
The leather jacket.
I talked to Christine, and then when I mentioned it to you over DMs, you're like, the story's a little bit different. So just in your own words, please tell us about that god-awful leather jacket.
I'm not sure why he was so set on it, but yeah, he saw it. I mean, I know he talked about it for a little while before that, how he was going to get this $15,000 leather white jacket, like these other multimillionaires that he had been watching and trying to base his life after. I don't know. But anyway, he orders this jacket, and we weren't actually supposed to know how much it was, but some of us did see the tag when it came, and he was very adamant that it was 15 grand. And that's what we should tell people.
Uh-huh.
So when Christine and Tolga came over and we're videoing him in his white leather jacket. Then he was having us tell them that it was 15 grand.
How much was it though?
It was $60 at like this trashy online store.
Oh, because it makes it even better that it wasn't even real leather. Like, you know, it was just this faux leather. Oh my gosh.
What jacket would be 15 grand unless you bought it from like Chanel or Louis Vuitton or something?
I know.
And also he had these hundred thousands of dollars of these vehicles that were hundreds and thousands of dollars, and then he has us lie about this jacket. It's so dumb.
So in that moment when you knew the jacket was $60 and he's telling you to tell everybody it's 15 grand, what's going through your mind? Was that maybe one of the first moments where you're like, this doesn't make sense?
Actually, no, it didn't. It's weird. It wasn't until after in prison, when I had been isolated away from it, that I started questioning and then remembering back on that. Like,
okay,
he's been lying to me all along.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the moment, I feel like I was too numb to care. I was too numb to care. But it is funny now.
Let's talk about your time in prison. My first thought first of all, you were put in prison because you were told by Sam to go and get the underage girls, right? And drive them away from their foster homes?
Yes.
Okay.
The documentary doesn't really cover a lot about that, about what happened. The girls actually ran. So to this day, I still have no idea the addresses of those group homes. They ran and sent us the location of where they were. They were under this freeway bridge. And I was only there for 3 of them that were picked up. And the other 5 were picked up by another girl. And I went with them down to someplace in California. All I remember is driving through Joshua Valley or something like that. And it was night. We drove all night. And then I ended up going back because of all the split ups that Sam was like, split up, you know. So I ended up going back, and then I went back to the creek, to the greenhouse. And that was when the police showed up and were asking me tons of questions about where they were. At that point, I had no idea. I was obedient. I did what he asked and went back home. When they were asking all these questions, I had no idea where they were. And then he told me he was under arrest. I still don't remember when I headed out running. Like, when my brain came all back into focus, then I was in the mountains. And I was like, oh my God, I'm running and I'm under arrest. And why? And I didn't understand why I was under arrest. And so I went back to turn myself in and didn't really have the courage to, and ended up hiding under this trailer in the neighbor's yard, freezing all night.
How did everything come to be? Because then it just kind of skips to you being in prison. They charged you with kidnapping?
Yeah, I didn't know the charges until a few days later, after I was in jail. Then I sat in front of the courts and the judge explained the charges. I didn't even know what an attorney was. My attorney had to sit with me and explain what his role was. I was so naive to the whole judicial system, and even naive to what had happened, like what I did. At first, it was very scary, but at the same time, I remember telling my attorney, I'm glad. Because now, he's not going to tell me to do anything that God wants, and somehow God is going to justify me for not doing what he wants me to do right now because I'm here. And I wasn't against him at the time. I was more just relieved that it was over. And it wasn't until a few months of questioning and wondering what's happening and wondering about my beliefs and stuff. But I was so scared. I was really scared to question the church or the cult, because every time I questioned what he was doing, it deferred back to Warren Jeffs, because he was literally reading Warren Jeffs' diaries to us. He was playing by Warren Jeffs' handbook. So every time I questioned him, I would be questioning Warren Jeffs. And he did that very strategically, because he knew that we were trained and raised under Warren Jeffs. So he had to come in and be another Warren Jeffs.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I started questioning Warren Jeffs that the house of cards basically just crumbled. And then it just went on and on, up and up and up, clear to Joseph Smith even. And I was like, you know what? He was on mushrooms when he saw the Father and the Son. There was no way that could have happened. It was insane.
Yeah, it seems to get easier when you question one cult leader. It gets a little bit easier to question the next one, and a little bit easier to question the next one.
And then you can never, ever, after that, you can never even look at organized religion the same.
Yeah, it's hard.
All of them to me are like, no.
I have to know what it was like walking into prison, having been isolated your entire life, having lived this nightmare and been kept away from outside people, the outside society in general, and now you're in prison. My first thought was, oh my gosh, this girl's gonna get eaten alive. But what was it actually like in there?
It was terrifying. I got beat up
You
within
did?
the first 2 weeks.
No.
And I went to medical and segregation for 6 weeks and healed from it. And then they put me right back and it was really weird, because the people in there, I learned fast. I would become a master at just gauging the room and how to react as with Sam. So it was kind of the same. I just learned to adapt to a different type of prison.
Wow, that's a powerful statement. Learn to adapt to a different type of prison.
Yep. And that it was after adapting to it that I started making friends. And I guess I don't really like to call them friends, because I knew nothing about their background. But just hanging out with the other inmates and talking to them, and we would play games. Like, I learned to gamble a lot and watch tons of movies. I got into music, and then I finally started getting back into my artwork that I had done as a child and was banned from me through the Sam situation. I got back into art. I started drawing my feelings, what was going on inside, because I couldn't really express them. I started writing poems, thousands of poems, and I would write different feelings. I mean, I journaled as well, so I have tons of the process of my transition out of that cult mindset, because I journaled a lot. And I would write different things that I'd been reading, different things that I had noticed and recognized. And it was there. I personally don't like to go back and look at those journals, but they are interesting.
What was it like just having access to the outside world without anyone watching you anymore? I'm assuming you had a library. You said you were exposed to movies and music. Was there anything that was just so mind-blowing that you learned while there?
I read a lot. I read over 300 books in there. It was crazy, because at first I was trying to understand, why is this happening to me? Wondering about my beliefs.
Yeah.
Why do I believe this way? And I went through the entire Mormon history, all the journals, all the church history. I went through 14 different versions of the Bible and the Book of Mormon, everything, just searching for answers, wondering why my perfect obedience ended me up in prison.
Yeah.
Nothing made sense. So it wasn't until after not getting any answers out of that except more questions. The more I read into it, the more questions I had. Then I started going a different route. I started reading more self-help books. Then I got into novels, and novels were so fascinating to me because I'd never had that before. So they were interesting and they were fun to read and they were relaxing to my brain. So I would read a lot of self-help books, and then to relax my brain, I would read novels. Hundreds.
Was there anything that you remember reading that helped you understand what you had gone through?
Mostly a book. Actually, I have it right here. Combating Cult Mind Control.
Oh, yeah, that'll
by
do
Stephen
it.
Hassan.
That'll do it.
And I still read that. I still will go back and reference in it when I'm not understanding people that are still in, and I'm getting frustrated, and I'm going through this survival guilt of how did I see and not them. I'll go back to that, and I have tons of like little notes written on the side of my own experiences of like when it's talking about something, and I'll be like, I remember going through this exact feeling. So that book helped me a lot. There was another one called The Pathway to Surrender, Letting Go. And I can't remember the author. That one was another one that helped me get into a mindset of only just telling the truth to the FBI, to my attorneys, to the courts, just telling the truth. I also had a lot of therapy in prison. Then I was provided with therapy.
That's
Thank
so
God.
good. I was going to ask
A
you
year
that.
after, but
A year
it
after
was-
being in?
yes. So 13 months after being in prison, then I finally was provided with therapy. And it was after some really dark months, because after coming to a realization that my entire life I had been lied to, I was born and raised in these lies. And here I am in prison facing these massive charges that I didn't even understand.
Yeah.
It was so much. It was so heavy on me. I didn't see a way forward. So I attempted suicide. And even after the attempt and them finding me and resuscitating me, then I went through months of those thoughts. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. I did a lot of self-harm. And then my attorneys ended up putting me in a place where I was able to get therapy, talk it out. And in therapy was when I finally started opening up more to my therapists and then to the FBI.
Wow. It's so much to go through. I can't even wrap my brain around it. The deconstruction process in prison. We haven't spoken to anyone who's had that type of experience, and it's already a place where you're on edge, fight or flight, I'm sure, and just trying to work through all of that and uncover things and deconstruct your entire life in this prison sentence. So when you were there, were sister wives, was Christine and Tolga, were they all coming to you and trying to visit you and talk to you and influence you in any way?
No, I didn't have very many visits. And the phone calls, I limited them to once a day, and I would only call my sister. She was still in at the time, and I would not talk about anything. I would just talk about the different movies I was watching. I would talk about different funny things that happened that I saw the other inmates doing, because people were so fascinating to me. The variety, the individuality. Everybody was the same from where I grew up.
Yeah.
But seeing the different characters and individuality, even in prison, it was fascinating. And I would just people watch, just watching them. It was so funny. So I would talk a lot about that stuff. I'd just talk about a lot of surface level things. I would talk to my aunt a lot. And she was the one that ended up coming down and getting me and signing to be my legal guardian or whatever when I first got out.
Yeah.
She had left the FLDS like 3 years prior. I didn't talk to Christine or Tolga. I sent them messages. I remember sending messages to Tolga and telling him how sorry I was for the things that I had said, because I said some really mean things to him, and for cutting them off. But I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about anything at the time. I wasn't ready to. It wasn't until I was released on pre-trial before my sentencing, and I went through the whole trial, and 4 months later, I think it was 4 months later, when I was driving down to be sentenced to time served, then I listened to a podcast of Christine telling her story. Up until then, I didn't understand why she did what she did. I felt, even though she had come in and befriended us and stuff, I still felt this anger of betrayal.
Yeah.
Until I listened to that podcast and how similar our lives were. And everything came to light. It was shocking how fast it made sense. And I couldn't thank her enough. And I cried and cried that night. And the next day, I went to my aunt and I said, I really need to talk to Christine. I need to talk to her and Tolga. And she was so sweet. When she never judged me, for the mean things that I had said to her. I remember the next day, we went and met her. And the first thing she said was, she said something about understanding me and how she knew I was innocent. And she said, you don't have to prove yourself to me. Now I'm getting emotional. But yeah, since then, I've gotten very close to her. And she's helped me a lot with navigating this outside world and adapting and healing. She's like a mom to me.
Yeah.
And I love her so much.
Oh.
I couldn't thank her enough for what she did.
I love that you guys have been able to reconnect and gain that strong relationship. She probably feels in some ways like a mother figure to you, because she knows, she saw everything you went through, and she's there for you now. And when I interviewed her, I think it was yesterday or the day before, yeah, she was saying the same thing about how she's so happy to have reconnected with you.
Yeah.
I was also looking forward to hearing her cult story, and as I learned more, yeah, it all made sense why she chose to advocate for the women in the FLDS and for you guys and do everything that she did. So it was so great hearing her story. The last thing I need to know then is how you are doing now. What brings you joy and peace and happiness? I know you're writing music and you're working on music videos. Let's talk about all of that.
Yeah, music, writing, art, all those still bring joy. Plus, I've gotten so close to Christine. And this may sound like weird to some people, but talking about it is healing.
Yeah.
And being able to, feel that validation. And with Christine as the perfect role model, when people tell me that I remind them of Christine, I'm like, thank you. That's like the best compliment ever. Like, if I can go in and save people's lives like that I would feel like I had accomplished something so great in this life.
I think just doing what you're doing and being an example is saving people's lives. You don't have to be boots on the ground infiltrating cults to make a difference. You are making a difference, and you are showing people who maybe went back to the FLDS or maybe even still believe in Sam that there is a way out, there is a way forward.
Yes.
You can be happy and healthy and strong and yourself and be an individual and have autonomy.
I feel a drive to advocate for people inside. It's because of what's happened with me. And I don't want other people to go through that.
Yeah.
I just feel this drive to bring that awareness, even though it is painful for me. And I have days where I physically can't get up because I don't know. It's hard. It is, but I want to prove that it's possible to recover
Yeah.
and change. And there's hope for them. If someone else is in this very bad situation, there is hope for them. And if someone's family member is in a situation like that, don't give up on them. They can come out. Look how deep I was in it. And I was able to wake up.
Yeah.
And that's why I have so much hope for even the people that are still in.
My unsolicited advice would be don't forget to take care of yourself, because I know you went from total self-sacrifice to now it may feel like you want to sacrifice yourself to show people how you can be on the outside, and all of that is amazing. And make sure to listen to your body, take rest.
I try.
Prioritize yourself. Okay, good.
I try, but being a tradition to not think of yourself,
Yeah.
it's a challenge. It is a challenge to be like, you know what? I need a break.
Be selfish. It's okay to be selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's challenging. It's really weird, but it's something that I have to consciously remind myself to take care of myself
Yeah.
too.
And you're in a relationship now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's going well and you're happy?
Very healthy, a very happy, healthy, loving relationship. Ironically, he's from the FLDS as well.
No way!
And his dad was Warren Jeffs. And he was able to escape that.
Oh my gosh, we need to talk to him.
Yes, we should. We should have him on as well.
Yes.
His story is incredible as well, what he went through and his deconstruction. I feel like that was why I related to him so much. I had dated other men before from the outside. None of them would get it. They didn't understand the trauma, the panic attacks. But he did. And I just feel so comfortable around him. And he never judges me when I'm triggered or panicked about something because he understands that he's been through it.
Yeah.
So
That's
I feel like
amazing.
He's the best one.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I know you're getting thousands of messages and I want to send people to find you and support you on your social media. Before we give all of your handles, what's something that you feel like you wish people would know, or ask me everything, but don't ask me this one question, or whatever it is that you feel like you would like people to know when they reach out to you?
I just wanted to know that hope, resilience, strength, and recovery is possible. I don't really mind questions. It's up to me to answer them.
Yeah.
I just ignore them. If they're too personal or too rude.
Insensitive.
Yeah, I just ignore them when they're that way. But I wish that they would just see that the girl that I am now.
Yeah. Okay, so where can people find you and support you?
I have Instagram at Nomzia_B, TikTok, same thing. I think those are the only two places that I'm like really active on. I do have a Facebook under Nomzia Baseline, but I don't really do Facebook a lot. My TikTok and Instagram are what I'm most active on. Hopefully I can get YouTube started very soon and start showing more music videos, talking more about my story.
Yeah. If you need pointers, we're here for you.
I do need pointers on that.
Okay.
Because I have no idea.
Happy to help any way that we can. I'll give you my number after this and we can chat. That's awesome. Okay, so what's your Linda Listen moment?
What's my what?
Your Linda Listen moment, your sassy statement that you want to say to anyone who's pissed you off, or something inspirational for our viewers today.
I don't really have statements to piss people off. I really don't.
You don't have any sassy
I
statements
know.
that you would say to
I mean-
Sam or...
Oh, to Sam? Oh, I have a lot of things that I would love to say, but I don't think that it would be very appropriate to say them here. So...
Okay. Okay. Well, you've already said some really great advice. Like, just know that there's hope on the other side. If there's something else that you would want to add.
I do have, I'm like looking at my wall right now because I have like tons of little quotes that I go by. One of them says, "I have no desire to fit in."
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. Another one, just before the release of this documentary, then I was under a lot of anxiety of how the world was going to see that, and all the very sensitive information about my life was going to be out there for the whole world. And I was just under a lot of anxiety, and so I wrote this quote that says, "I'll be okay either way." And I used that quote a lot in my life, even when I was being released from prison and everything. That was something that I would always go to. I'd be like, "I'm okay either way. I'm okay either way." And so that's another quote.
Yeah.
Another thing that I always look at is like my role models, like Christine and different actors and singers that I look up to a lot. Then I always think things like, if they can do it, I can too.
Yeah. Amazing. I love it. You've come so far, Nomz. You're truly an inspiration. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and willing to share and open and honest. We have an incredible community that I'm sure will just flood the comments with words of encouragement for you. Do you have any other final thoughts before we go?
I hope that it helps everyone.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, leave those words of encouragement from Nomz down below. Go watch the documentary if you haven't. It's called Trust Me, The False Prophet over on Netflix. And go follow and support Nomz on her social media and help her achieve her goals. If you want to support the channel, truly the best way is interacting with the post, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. If you want to support further and you want some behind the scenes videos, members only live streams, and early access to some of our videos, you can become a channel member. And if that's not your thing and you want to support over on Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/cults2consciousness. Our newest patrons, Lynette, Marcy, Aaron, and Ashley, thank you so much for your support. And Peter and Jody bought a whole year. We really appreciate you guys, especially where I'm about to go on maternity leave, and we're going to try to keep the channel going with videos that we've recorded previously. But any way that you could support means a lot to us. If you like this video, I'll link 2 more down here below, including the one we did with Christine, where you can hear all about how she infiltrated the group and was able to help Nomz get out, escape, and now become a mother figure. And we also have a whole FLDS playlist as well, with some former wives of Warren Jeffs and children of Warren Jeffs. You can hear their perspectives too. Thanks so much for joining, and until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.
Thank you. Bye.